Well, Donald Trump better beware. Barack Obama is at it yet again, and this time he's taking matters into his own hands, and specifically regarding Charlie Kirk. In fact, just this past week, he attended Jefferson Society there in Pennsylvania, in which he decided to give a speech about his feelings on Charlie Kirk. Not only did he say that Charlie Kirk's views were wrong, that's just a side note, but on top of it, he went on to basically accuse Donald J. Trump of inciting political violence surrounding all of that. This man is just insane. Take a listen to what he said.
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views. And that is when we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem.
So in other words, Trump has extremist views, and he is using the full force of the government to instigate these extremist views. And by the way, he says, I never did that in my administration, which is straight up BS. I've got a lot to share with you in today's broadcast, but just a quick break from my sponsor. You know, sometimes you see something and you think, I've got to have one of those in my life like yesterday. Well, these Trump sneakers that are gold are going to make you think just that. Take a look at these bad boys. They aren't just shoes. They're a full-on statement. They're bold. They're fearless. They're unapologetic and patriotic. And let me tell you, they don't just look good on your feet. They feel good as well. They're comfortable. They're lightweight, and they are durable. But you know what's best about these is they send a message, and a message, by the way, that liberals are not going to like. That is why you should check these out ASAP, and you can even buy them as a gift. All you have to do to check these bad boys out is go to the MAGAoffers.com/Lisa. That's the MAGAoffers.com/Lisa. And right now, if you go to my site, you can get it for 15% off just for my audience only. And by the way, you want to hurry up and get a jump on this because they are only selling 1,000 pairs. So check it out now. Anyhow, if you want more information, click that more button or click the link in the description box below. So let's just dive in a little bit to this insane claim by Barack Obama, who basically is out using the pulpit right now to say stupid things and say, oh, we never did anything bad. Trump is fomenting political violence, and it's his fault everything is going down. That's the way that I had read his comments. But just a quick reminder under this guy, and I think this is very important, and this is a meme I found on the internet, but great meme, I think, that portrays his presidency. Before my presidency, there was no ISIS, there was no caliphate, there was no Black Lives Matter. Remember, Black Lives Matter was formed in 2013 under little dear daddy Barack Hussein Obama, their daddy, not mine. There was no Antifa, there was no war on police. I built all of that. Now, just as a reminder, right, he was the one that was behind Russiagate. You know, the whole Russia Spygate narrative where his administration spied on Donald J. Trump to basically make it look like Donald J. Trump was working with Russia, which turned out to be an entire hoax. That is, I would call that politicizing and weaponizing the U.S. government to the full extent of the law as much as you can. Just like you just accused Donald Trump of doing, yet that's the very thing that he did. Not only that, let's also remember that under Barack Obama, conservatives were targeted by, the IRS, right? Lois Lerner, right? The IRS literally went after Tea Party patriots and conservatives groups, and I believe it was 95% and I'm estimating that number there of how many conservative organizations and groups that the IRS would go after as opposed to liberals. Let's just go audit a bunch of conservatives. They actually had to apologize for that later. It sounds a lot like you're weaponizing agencies against the American public. Weird, right? That you said none of this happened under your administration. I just think I should throw that in there. Hey, let's not mention Fast and Furious, or hey, what about the DOJ slush funds, where you pressured banks to donate to left radical nonprofits? That's weaponizing bureaucracy. But hey, let's get into a little bit more regarding this. Under him, there were a lot of riots too. BLM, Antifa kind of style riots. And I'm just going to read you my list here. And I've written these down because, I gotta have notes sometimes, right? Let's talk about this. Ferguson, Missouri, right? That happened under Barack Obama. There was arson, there were fires, there was violence, there was police clashes. The whole deal with Michael Brown, who got shot by a police. That's one. What about Baltimore, Maryland, right? Freddie Gray, the death of Freddie Gray. Also rioting, also arson, also looting and clashes with police. Well, that's two. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Seville Smith, right? There were riots, fires on businesses and cars. Number 4, Charlotte, North Carolina. There's another one. Keith Lamont Scott. Unrest, looting. Oh, things were so bad that they had to declare a state of emergency. These are 4 massive riots and looting and arson events that happened under you, Mr. Barack Obama. Kind of makes his extremist views come out. You're accusing of Donald Trump of having these extremist views, yet none of that existed before you. I think one could question that Obama was fomenting a lot of this stuff because under him, they let all the cities burn and get right. There was none of this ethnic group against ethnic group kind of stuff going on that they have been pushing for years, and it's really despicable. But in light of the fact that he called Charlie Kirk's views wrong, and we can debate people and all, and I don't really care. That's his view. He's allowed to have it. I think Charlie Kirk should have the last word in this, so I'm going to throw this up there. When he was alive, God bless his heart, and this is what Charlie Kirk says about Obama. Obama will go down as one of the worst presidents in American history. I want to plaster that on my wall, right? But I think one can suggest and state that Barack Obama is himself an extremist. And by the way, many people question whether it was Barack Obama kind of pulling the strings of Joe Biden when he was president. One could then suggest that you weaponize the entire FBI, the DOJ, the NIH, all of it. All of it was weaponized against only one group, that is conservatives. And we're finally getting things back together. It's going to take some time. We ain't quite there yet. But one could assume that happened under him too, assuming who nobody really knows who was in charge of the country under Obama, potentially his admin. Under Joe Biden, but hey, who knows? But this information that you heard, this video clip, is coming from the guy that actually said this as well, Politico. Obama brings gun to a knife fight. If they bring a knife to a fight, we bring a gun, Obama said in Philadelphia last night, because from what I understand, folks in Philly like a good brawl. I've seen Eagles fans. Ooh, that's pretty intense, right? You know what else Barack Obama fomented? How about the fact that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy? And he declared this when the Texas Democrats were doing their redistricting plan, gerrymandering, whatever, a thing, by the way, which Democrats have been doing for a while. But he says that they're a threat to democracy, and he even hones in on Donald Trump and his administration.
What we all recognize is we can't let a systematic assault on democracy just happen and stand by. And so because of your actions, because of your courage, what you've seen is California responding, other states looking at what they can do to offset this mid-decade gerrymandering that is highly irregular. The executive branch unilaterally doing things that bypass Congress and the people's representatives. Militarization of cities, politicization of our justice departments and our military. Those are trend lines that remind us that this precious democracy that we've got is not a given. It's not self-executing. It requires us to fight for it. Hey, everybody, it's Barack, and I am here with my good friend, Attorney General Eric Holder, because we're facing an existential threat to our democracy, and we need your help.
Pay attention to his words there. Donald Trump is assaulting democracy. Wow, assaulting democracy by, politicizing the Justice Department. Hey, you did that. Gerrymander. Hey, under your administration, I'm sure that happened. Sending the military in the streets on the whole 9 yards. No, the military is there to stop crime. He's not there rounding people up. But do you see how intense his words are and how striking they are? And even at the end of that clip, and I showed you that last clip, Barack Obama and my friend Eric Holder are here to tell you that, that we are facing an existential threat to democracy. Existential. That means it's kind of a life or death thing, metaphorically speaking, if we don't fix what's going on. Those pretty intense words, don't you think? And now we have things like what happened to Donald J. Trump, assassination attempts on his life, and Charlie Kirk's. And you know how I feel about all of that. Anyhow, keep my eyes on you, Barack Obama. I think you still got a lot of play moves with the chess piece in our society, and I think your name could very well come up again. Anyhow, I love you all. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven signing out.